so nice to have you back here. I feel like I'm back to normal. I think I've ticked lots of boxes, I've got lots of things done, and I'm just so grateful for everything. It's all gone beautifully. I've had such a nice time. Putting things into exhibitions is always a bit of a game, and I'm just glad now I can just go, if I could show you what's around my studio, you'd be going, yeah, you can tell you've been putting an exhibition together. There's like stuff everywhere, there's piles of detritus, there's my boxes. This is my special box that I take with me that's got like all my kit in that I might need. It's got, you know, masking tape and bits of string, it's got pens and labels, it's got sticky labels. This is my my posh one, and I have a toolkit as well I put in. You may notice there's an absence of somebody. Miss Mildred is now fully on display, and I will be showing her to you, I think, next week. I'm going to show you today what I did to finish her off, because I think that would be quite nice to, you know, draw a line under that and show you, because I'm quite pleased with what I did and how it ended up. And it was fun to do, and she's now on display. And I thought I've got some film to put together when I get around to editing it, of the exhibition and how we set it up and things. It was such a joy to be with my friends again. I think there's 6 of us in it this time. We're a group of textile artists. There's a couple of felt makers, a print maker, somebody who does rag rugging, amongst other things. She's a very talented artist in paint and pastel, but she also does rag rugging and things like that. Produces beautiful big sort of contemporary pieces, and also a fellow stitcher like myself who does machine embroidery, and it's just a lovely mix of people, and we get on really well, and it's very easy to do. You know, there's no prima donnas, we just enjoy it. And then we had about 40 people. We had a Meet the Makers Day on Saturday, and the weather was glorious. Suddenly the sun came out. We had rain early in the week, and then suddenly the sun came out and we had a lovely day outside. Some of us inside, some of us outside, and we had about 40 visitors, which was just super, you know, to feel that things are opening up again and that we can meet again and do stuff together is just really, really lovely. So, and I have to say, summer has arrived. Would you like to see what I'm wearing underneath it? I feel like Angela Rippon. Those of you who remember the newsreader Angela Rippon, who you only ever saw the top half of, I've got my special summer trousers on that are easy to wear. They're actually pyjamas and I just love them. They've got melons on and I just find them so comfortable. I put them on first thing in the morning and I just wander around the house in them, but I thought I'd look a bit, you know, smarter on the top half. I have to say also, this is a beautiful charity shop find that I got, and I was going to cut it up and I restrained myself, and I'm so pleased because it's a really beautiful piece. It's even got little crocheted covered buttons, and I just love it. It's very sort of shimmy-ish and easy to wear, and I thought, well, you know what? Summer seems to have arrived. Let's celebrate it. So today I'm going to show you back into the rusty colours and show you how I finished off Miss Mildred's beautiful outfit, and a bit of hand stitching, a bit of machine stitching, I think, or maybe mostly hand stitching actually, and some pinning, lots of pinning and hand stitching, which is a rare thing for me, so make the most of it. And next week, as I say, I will try and show you, put together this week, get some film edited. I've got lots and lots of clips to put together. I went a bit mad, I'll be honest, and so I'll try and get that together so that those of you who can't come to the exhibition, I will, you know, try and show you a little bit of that. And I will put a link down below again for where the exhibition is on. It's in West Cumbria. You know, I know it's a long way away from probably a lot of people, but there might be some of you who are a bit more local. Perhaps if you haven't been to Florence Mine before, to the Florence Arts Centre, it's well worth a visit. So without more ado, let us get to the grit and the grit and the oyster, something like that. Let's get back to button making, and I'll show you what I got up to. Okay, so now I've taken this off my dummy, off Miss Mildred, and you can see more closely, I think, where I kind of joined the two pieces together. I just buttered them up against each other. I used a tiny little bit of soluble fabric just to hold it together while I stitched across. So it kind of blends in and it looks like it's all part of the same piece of metal, which I'm quite pleased with. And this is the other half. So I've got two halves, I've measured them, I've fitted them, I've pinned them. And what's going to happen is, actually I think it's upside down, let's just swivel it round because it's upside down, that's better. So this half is going to come over onto this half, and I've made some super duper, I have to say I'm very pleased with this. I have made some fantastic little buttons, and there's one of them there. Just hold on a second and I'll get the other button. Yes, I'm really pleased with these buttons. I'll just move these out of the way for a second because I think you might like to see this. I found these in my stash. Now these are very old-fashioned buttons. I don't know when they date back to. Made in England. I bought them at I think Woolfest or somewhere, and what it is, they don't have any kind of, snip that one off, they haven't got anything on them. They're very, very simple. I don't know if I can show you that, if I can get that into focus for you. They're really simple, and I think they're absolutely beautiful. I suddenly thought, well, I could just cover these with some fabric, which is what I've done. So I've tried one like this. This has just got some stretchy sort of organza-y fabric on it, and you can see my thread where I've stitched it, and I've gathered it up in a circle. I cut it into a circle, made myself a little pattern, and I cut a little circle out, and I was going to cover it with different colours, and I thought, well, I can put that and that on together, and then I will put some of this. I love this stretchy fabric. My lovely bobbly stretchy fabric is so useful, and I thought, well, I might even turn it over the other way so you get more texture with it. So that's kind of what I've aimed for. So that was my first attempt, and I was trying to think how you make the I think you call it a shaft on a button, don't you? Like the sticky outy bit that you that's very technical, isn't it, that you sew onto the piece with. So this is my second attempt, and this has got layers on of the fabric like I've just shown you, and then I took some really thick thread, which I've got here. I've got this really beautiful thick thread, and I created myself a little loop basically, and I did a kind of buttonholey thing. I did two pieces going over, and then I've done like a buttonholey thing. So I've created myself a neat little button, which I'm really pleased with. So that's going to go, I'll just move these out of the way again. I will just put that back in the box. So that's going to come on here. So I'll have a series of those going down. I was trying to think of something that was really, really simple, and originally I was going to do eyelet holes and lacing, and I thought it was just too fussy because we've got this going on and we've got the front. It was going to be too fussy. So what I have here is a piece of, it's actually wired this, but I won't make it wired, and I'm going to put that, make a loop, and that can be the fastening. So get it to the right size, and that's with the button. That will make a very simple fastening on there. Excuse me. In fact, it needs to go to there. That's where it's marked to. Makes more sense. Let's just fiddle about with it. It's a bit fiddly, this. Everything's a bit fiddly, but this is what I love. I love constructing things like this. I love the challenge of the construction. I love not quite knowing where I'm going with it, and I love working out as I go along how I'm going to construct it. And I think all the dressmaking I did when I was a child that my mum taught me to do, I'm so grateful for, because at least I do have some idea of how things go together. And then my sort of arty, creative, no rules bit comes in, because it's not meant for wearing. It's just a piece of art. But I'm really quite pleased with that. I think that looks really nice. So that's what I'm going to be working on next. I need to work out how I'm going to put the loops in through here. And I need to think about how I'm tidying these edges up. If I'm tidying these edges up, how I'm tidying these edges up. Whether I'm just going to heat gun them, cut them and heat gun them, or whether I think I'm probably going to turn them in, because I think that helps make it feel like a chunky piece of metal if I turn them in like that. So watch this space, as they say. Let's just keep this thing rolling, because it's got to go on display next week. I ain't got long. And you will probably see this once I've set the exhibition up, to be honest. This is going to be a film that I put together when I've got a little bit more sort of spare capacity, shall we say, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got to get this all done and dusted, ready for the exhibition. Oh, so this is where I've got to, and now I'm going to get on and work out how I'm going to do these edges, put these edges together, and I will show you it as I go along. So I've cut these little circles out from this sort of, I don't know what you call it, it's a sort of organza-y voile sort of fabric, and I'm just going to run a little gathering stitch around it like this, which is quite nice to do. Oh, there go the geese. That's my girls. It's very pleasant just to do a bit of hand stitching, isn't it? I do quite enjoy it when I get to do this kind of thing. It's very slow, very gentle. I've got myself quite a fine needle for me. I often have huge needles that I use, far too big for the job usually. But I thought this one needed a little fine needle because it's fine fabric. And I want to create quite fine kind of gathers on it. Like this. Okay, right. So that's kind of gathering up. It's like a little mob cap, isn't it? Isn't that sweet? That's really sweet. I'm going to pop one of these in, like this, and just gently pull up the gather. Very gently. Now that's a little bit big. Okay, so maybe the next one I will do, I might cut the circle a little bit smaller. It's all a bit hit and miss, this, trial and error. But what I'll do is I'll just bring it together with some stitching. This bit's going to get cut off anyway. That little bit's going to get cut off anyway. I'll just gather that up some more. Okay, so I've really stitched and stitched across here and round it, so it's nice and secure. I've also cut off all the excess fabric because I had far too much fabric. It's just that it made it easy to handle the circle to gather it up to start with. I'm sure there's probably a proper way of doing this, but I'm just kind of making it up as usual. So the next thing I want to do is cut a little bit of this really nice dark organza. I just want to cut a little bit for the top of this so that it makes the top of the button a little bit darker. It's a bit fussy, I'm being a bit fussy here, but I just kind of, you know, I've only got 5 buttons to make. I can just take my time, can't I? There's no rush. And I'll just quietly do them. So we'll have that going on top of that, which darkens it down a little bit. And then on top of that we'll go this circle of fabric, which again is far too big, so I'll maybe cut that down again. I kind of got a bit carried away when I was cutting these things out because I know that this is really stretchy, this fabric, so I'll just trim this down a bit. Okay, so we'll put that with that, put that on top. And which way up do I want it to go? I'm going to put it upside down because I really like the texture of that. Oh, I do like fiddly jobs, don't you? Because they're really, it's really absorbing. And I'm just going to again, we'll do a little running stitch around here. In fact, let's just see. No, I will do a running stitch and gather it up. I can see that this process is going to evolve with every button that I make, because I didn't make the first button quite like this because I was just working out how to do it at all. There we go, that starts to pull it in. And because nobody's going to see the back of this, and they're not going to be like functional buttons, they're just for show really. I mean, they will hold the 2 pieces of the back bodice together, they will fasten up and stay, keep everything in place, but at the same time they're not going to be used regularly, as it were, every day, taken on and off. So you can see that's going to be nice and round. That's going to be nice. So they're quite different, but using the same fabrics. And again, I'm just going to work on stitching this together now. This is why I really love working with fabric, I think, because it's very forgiving. You can fudge it and you can bodge it and you can sort of make it work by adding bits on or taking bits off or stitching a bit on top, or, you know, it's a very forgiving medium. It's why I like it so much. And especially because I'm making art, I'm not making something that's practical. If this was, as I say, on a garment, you would have to make it much more robust. And I think that's why I don't do dressmaking, because this is much more fun. So the next thing with this is I'm going to try and make the little sort of, well, I don't know what you call it, the little bit here that's going to help me sew the button on. I like that. So I've got this lovely thick thread as I showed you before, and I'm just going to have a go at doing that next. So I've got a bigger needle here. There we go. And I always put a knot in the end of my thread. I don't know whether you're supposed to or not, I don't really care. I just think it helps. So what I did with the last one was, I mean, you could just stitch this down, I think, onto the fabric. That would probably work. And I'm just going to leave that there, and I will cut that bit off at the end. And what I did last time was I just kind of made this really secure all the way around with my nice thick thread, like this. Oops. There you go. And then I took it over a couple of times. Now actually I'm going to make this a bit smaller. I don't think it needs to be quite as big as I made the last one. So I just make it a double loop. And you can see that. That's got a little, let's see if I can show you it a bit closer up. It's very hard to do this bit. Anyway, it's got a double loop there, and all I'm going to do now, again, this is some kind of weird thing from my past, how to do this, is you just put a loop around both of those little stringy bits, both threads, put your needle through, you make a little loop, and you put your needle through there. It's kind of like making oh, not a buttonhole stitch, but it's that kind of thing, you know, when you make oh, what is it you do when you make button loops? I think that's what I'm thinking of, something from my childhood being shown by my mum, how to make sorry, I'll just let my needle get untwisted, how to make button loops. If you don't want to make a buttonhole on something, you can use this technique. And I'm sure, again, somebody will tell me, somebody wants to comment and leave me a comment and tell me what this is called. I know it'll have a proper name. And because I'm not really a hand stitcher, I don't always know the names of these things. There you go. So that's beginning to make that sort of stiff enough that I can then use that as the loop to sew that on. It's really quite satisfying doing this. So I'll get this finished off, and I've got, what have I got left to make? I've got to make another 3, and then we will be able to sew them onto the back of the bodice. It's very exciting. I like it when it gets to this stage when it's almost there, and I've dealt with all the kind of problems, I've come up with solutions, and I've kind of pulling the project together. It's exciting at this phase.